In 2022, the American personal saving rate fell to a low not seen since the Great Recession.
70% say they are stressed about their personal finances, and that includes 57% of people earning $100,000 or more.
According to bank deposit records, Americans as a whole are still better off than they've traditionally been.
Financial stress is growing as more households in America find it harder to preserve their lifestyle. The savings crisis has been deepening after the pandemic. According to a recent National Institute on Retirement Security report, the average household has only $40,000 in retirement savings. Unfortunately, this issue is even worse when considering current income level and savings. The lower half of earners only have a few $1,000s in their savings, and 40% of Gen Xers have no balance in their retirement savings account. Thus, in this video, we'll talk about the savings crisis. So, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Ensure you're always informed on America's most critical economic topics. Now, let's get back to the topic. Despite the ongoing economic uncertainty, Americans are saving less these days. The latest data from the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis shows that the personal savings rate, the percentage of disposable income people save, was just 3.9% in August. This is significantly lower than the average of roughly 8.9% that's been observed over several decades. Despite this, consumers continue to spend money, which has been crucial in keeping the economy growing. This spending trend could possibly prevent the country from falling into a recession, despite more than a year of discouraging forecasts. According to Diana Fort-Gott-Roth, an economist professor at George Washington University and former chief economist at the U.S. Department of Labor, people who are optimistic about the future do not feel the need to save, such as a significant amount of money. However, this does not apply that consumers are out of the woods just yet. In reality, many are still struggling to make ends meet. When the pandemic brought the economy to a standstill, the U.S. government provided trillions of dollars in stimulus money, allowing American households to accumulate significant cash. It was the first recession in U.S. history where disposable income went up, said Thomas Phillipson, a professor of public policy studies at the University of Chicago and former acting chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors. However, most of the cash reserve has been depleted after consumers gradually spent their excess savings from the COVID years. Inflation has skyrocketed after the pandemic, making it more difficult for people to make ends meet. Additionally, the Federal Reserve's most aggressive interest rate hiking cycle in 4 decades has made it more expensive to borrow money. However, the biggest problem so far is with the 401k system. The most recent data shows that more retirement savers borrow from their 401k plan, which, according to economists, is a severe sign of financial stress on families. Individuals have to tap their retirement savings because they have to pay for or pay back something. It's important to note that gradually individuals with a 401k retirement savings account are not allowed to withdraw their savings before retirement age without being penalized. However, there is one exception to this rule, and that is through taking out a loan. Investors can borrow money against their 401k account balance, and if the loan is repaid correctly, there are no tax or penalty consequences. It's essential to note that not all 401k plans allow for loans, although most do. Empower, an account administrator, analyzed its internal data on 5.3 million accounts and found that roughly 138,000 individuals, or 2.6% of savers, took a loan from their workplace plan in the third quarter of this year, with an average loan amount of $10,778. This statistic has increased from the previous year, with a 2.3% in Q3 2022, 1.7% in 2020. Fidelity Investments, the largest 401k administrator in the U.S., observed that 2.8% of savers, or 641,000 individuals, took out a loan in the third quarter, an increase from 2.4% during the same period last year. Fidelity also analyzed 22.9 million accounts and found that more than 4 million people, or around 17.6% of investors, have an outstanding loan. This figure increased from 17.2% in the second quarter to 16.8% in Q3 2022. Fidelity attributes this rising trend to inflation, the cost of living pressure. Inadequate savings force many Americans to continue working. Over the past few decades, the population of America's elderly has grown substantially, and a growing proportion of them continue to work well beyond the traditional retirement age of 65. In fact, Americans aged 75 and above represent the fastest growing age group in the workforce. The research findings show that the number of Americans aged 65 and above has increased almost 4 times over the last 4 decades. A particular group is less inclined to spend their retirement years in relaxation compared to their counterparts in the 1980s. In 1987, only 11% of adults aged 65 or older were employed and actively participating in the workforce, while in 2022, this number rose to 19%, according to Pew Research Center's report. The organization further notes that the current figure of 11 million elderly Americans still working is almost 4 times the number those working in the mid-80s. Furthermore, the study shows that the fastest growing age group in the workforce is people aged 75 or above. It's been found that 9% of all Americans aged 75 and above are employed today, which is more than twice the percentage of people who were working in 1987, i.e., 4%. To put this into perspective, the average age of great-grandparents in the U.S. is currently around 75, while the average life expectancy of Americans is about 76. But this is only half of the issues households face as the 401k and IRA balances fell for older millennials and young Gen Xers. Recent research shows that the retirement balances for mid-career workers have declined significantly between 2019 and 2022. This trend is despite the gains made on financial assets such as stocks during this period. The Center for Retirement Research at Boston College conducted a study that analyzed triennial data from the Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finances to determine that median combined 401k plans and individual retirement account balances for individuals aged 35 to 44 decreased from $63,000 in 2019 to $50,000 in 2022. The report focused on working households with 401k plans and analyzed the balances of 2 different generational groups, namely older millennials and younger members of Generation X. It's essential to note that the balances mentioned in the study were not adjusted for inflation, which reached a 40-year high in 2022. Therefore, the buying power of that money was eroded. Interestingly, the study found that the retirement balances of older age groups increased during the same period. Savings for individuals aged 45 to 54 jumped to $119,000 from $105,000, while those aged 55 to 64 increased from $144,000 to $204,000. However, if we compare generational wealth, Gen X has the largest gap of any generation, making the American dream a nightmare for them. A recent report has found that the oldest members of Generation X, born between 1965 and 1980, are nearing their retirement age, but are not financially prepared for the next chapter of their lives. Despite making up around 20% of the population, Gen X often goes not receive the same attention as its older and younger cohorts, the baby boomers and the millennials. However, it's time for America to take notice, as many Gen Xers are just a few years away from leaving the workforce and beginning their retirement. According to the Schroders 2023 U.S. Retirement Survey, Gen Xers have the largest wealth gap of any generation. On average, Gen X workers say they will need a little over $1.1 million in savings to retire comfortably, but they only expect to have around $660,000 saved. This means that many Gen Xers may not have enough savings to support a comfortable retirement. Moreover, over 60% of non-retired Gen Xers are not confident in their ability to achieve a dream retirement. compared to 49% of millennials and 53% of baby boomers. While this is only a perception, other studies have found similar results indicating that Gen X is not financially prepared for retirement. Given the aging population problem, the situation looks bleak in the long term. A recent report by the Schwartz Center for Economic Policy Analysis has issued a warning about the state of elderly care in the U.S. According to the report, approximately 20 million Americans aged 55 and above require assistance with fundamental daily tasks as are necessary for living independently, such as preparing meals and using the bathroom. The report further reveals that an alarming 40% of these individuals, equating to over 8 million Americans, receive no assistance. This lack of support puts these vulnerable people at a much higher risk of injury, disability, and death. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and feel free to share your thoughts on the savings crisis in the comment section below.